Governor Murphy is giving an update on the coronavirus pandemic in New Jersey. Let's go to it now.
The Department of Health, Judy Persichilli. To her right, another familiar face, the Department of Health's Communicable Disease Service Medical Director, Dr. Ed Lifshitz. Great to have you both. The guy to my left who needs no introduction, Superintendent of the State Police Colonel Pat Callahan, Chief Counsel Paramel Garg, and a cast of thousands. I want to begin today by thanking President Biden for coming to New Jersey yesterday to see firsthand the destruction left in the wake of Tropical Storm Ida. And I also thank the residents of Manville in particular for welcoming us into their community at such a tough time. I'm also grateful to the county commissioners, mayors, local officials, and volunteers who have welcomed me and the First Lady, Pat, many of us on our team, into the many other communities we've toured over the past week. At each location, we've profoundly felt two things. First, the overwhelming sense of loss, but second, the determination to come back stronger and more determined than ever before. As I told the President prior to our tour, our New Jersey values shine brightest when our days are darkest. That's true in so many communities where neighbors and complete strangers are coming together to help each other pick up. I cannot say enough, Pat, about the state troopers, members of local law enforcement, firefighters, EMS teams, everyone in the first responder community who went out in the height of this storm and the floodwaters to save lives and property. You are all true heroes. And by the way, we have had a significant loss of life, significant damage to homes, but I'm not exaggerating this when I say thousands upon thousands of people's lives were saved from the roof of their car or the roof of their house, out a window of their house. Just extraordinary heroism to all the first responders. We got one of them with me today, so Pat, I say this to you, representing the entire first responder community in this state. Hats off to you. That is, by the way, a house in Lambertville, and those are the owners, those two folks. That house was moved 30 feet off its foundation to where it is resting there. 30 feet off its foundation. I also want to thank our federal delegation, Senators Bob Menendez and Cory Booker, and each one, both sides of the aisle, of our House members, and state legislators, again, on both sides of the aisle. I thank all for their partnership in advocating for the needs of our residents and our communities. So as it relates to getting what New Jersey deserves and what we need, I think we're off to a good start with a long way to go. We have major disaster declarations declared in Bergen, Gloucester, Hunterdon, Middlesex, Passaic, and Somerset counties. And that's a big deal. We got an emergency declaration, disaster declaration, almost immediately after a phone call with the President. But the major disaster declaration is a bigger deal because it allows individual homeowners to access federal assistance to begin rebuilding. And let me just say this, if you're not in those 6 counties, we are not done. Our work is not done. We're continuing to work with FEMA and county leaders across the state to expedite damage assessments and have those counties added to the major disaster declaration. And Pat, I think you're going to go through a little bit more color what's happening outside of those 6 counties in your remarks. This was truly a statewide event. It demands a statewide response. We made this case directly to the President, as well as the FEMA Administrator, Deanne Criswell, who's another outstanding leader and has been there for us. And we're not entirely out of the woods. I can't even believe that we're talking about this, but here goes. We are at risk for some severe storms this evening, which could bring wind gusts and downpours into areas that need neither. Please take it safe as these storms progress. If your phone goes off with a flash flood or tornado warning, please take it seriously. Do not try to go out in any storm. And we had too many people in particular, bless their souls, and I say this in nothing but complete sympathy, because you can all see any of us having tried to do this, who felt like they could be better than the water. Nobody passed from the tornadoes that touched down in the south. I think there's a sort of a light bulb that goes off when it goes from tornado watch to warning. Everybody went into their basements, and even houses that were completely clobbered and lost and flattened, everybody lived with very few, if any, injuries. I know I have this, I can see myself in this situation. My late father-in-law almost lost his life a few years ago due to this. You have a different, human nature has a different reaction to water than they do to, say, to a tornado. And I just have to beg all of us, to take all of this as seriously as we can. We don't want to cry wolf, right? So we don't want to now make every one of these warnings a high C, but we need to be factual. We need to be fact-based. And when the warnings go off, they're real. And I think the biggest takeaway that I have, Pat, and this does not encompass all of the losses of life, but most of them, it is particularly to stay off the roads, particularly in roads where you may think you know that road, but it is prone to flooding. And too many people were lost that way, and God bless each and every one of them. So back to looking back and how we get. So again, this weather warning, Pat, will get into as it relates to what we think the dimensions of this are today. I'm going to say this, and please God, we don't find out it's otherwise. It's not at the level that we were sitting here a week ago, literally exactly talking about what was going to happen last Wednesday night. But it is nonetheless something that is potentially serious, and it's largely because we have very saturated grounds in the state right now. So vegetation, trees, foundations, everything is more likely to be easily moved. So let's go back to what we do to get back on our feet on that long road to recovery from Ida. For those who are living in the 6 counties that are included in that major disaster declaration, again, Bergen, Gloucester, Hunterdon, Middlesex, Passaic, and Somerset, go to disasterassistance.gov to start your claim for direct help from FEMA. Disasterassistance.gov. There are some phone numbers up there. My advice is first go to the website. Now, for those of you who are in counties who have not yet been included in the FEMA declaration, and please God you will be sooner than later, you have to go to a different website, nj.gov/IDA, and there you should log your damages. That will help us, by the way, make the case for your inclusion, wherever county you're in. And when that happens, when you are included, your information will transfer from that website over to the federal database to help expedite your claim. And by the way, at that same website, nj.gov/IDA, we're also cataloging available resources. So you should also go there, whatever your need is, to find the answers. Not to inundate you with websites, but there's one other one I would recommend you go to. And I think everybody probably should visit this one. It's floodsmart.gov, the website of the National Flood Insurance Program. Across the state, I heard from homeowners who did not carry a flood insurance policy for any number of reasons. Their location hadn't been flooded before, and I heard a lot of that. Or they were told that even though they lived in close proximity to water, their property wasn't, quote unquote, technically in the flood zone. Others didn't realize that their homeowner's policy doesn't cover flooding events. For these families, the FEMA assistance is nothing short of a lifeline, but at a certain point it's limited and will not make you whole. FEMA assistance is there to help you meet your basic needs and begin to rebuild. Flood insurance is there to bring you back to where you were pre-flood. And this is an important point. You do not need to live in a flood zone to purchase a flood insurance policy. Ida proved that devastating floods can happen anywhere and at any time. Where it rains, it can flood. Again, this is a really important website. So floodsmart.gov. From there, you can learn more about flood insurance and find a list of companies across the state offering NFIP-approved flood insurance plans. Federally backed flood insurance through the National Flood Insurance Program or through the private marketplace is security in times like these. And I can give you a real live example of a friend who lives again in Lambertville. Her house is outside of the flood map. Her neighbor is inside the flood map, and they both flooded. And there's no reason why their flood insurance profile should look any different from either her or to her neighbor. Finally, again, with an incredibly heavy heart, as of this morning, we know that 27 New Jerseyans have lost their lives in Ida. Some were swept up in floodwaters that rushed into homes, some, if not many, in fact, in cars that were swept off roads and into roaring waters. At this moment, 4 more are still missing. It was a horrific, unfathomable loss of life. I've directed our flags to fly at half-staff through dusk on Friday in memory of them all. And I think right now it would be proper for us to take a moment of silence to honor all who we have lost. Thank you. God bless each and every one of them. Now, changing gears, Ida interrupted the start of our school year, and some districts are now opening their doors, or for those who had their first day 1 week ago, reopening them. We remain committed to a safe start to the school year. As a reminder, all students, school personnel, and visitors are to wear a face mask when in a school building. But masking is just part of a whole package or layered approach to safety that we're engaged in to protect our educational communities. And as I've noted before, masking is not a forever thing, but it's what we need to do to rely upon now as the Delta variant continues to impact communities, and many of our students, as you know, are still too young to be vaccinated. As we have previously mentioned, vaccinations for all staff and eligible students, regular screening, testing, physical distancing, and hand washing, and staying home when sick, among other protocols, are all important layers of protection for our school communities. The more we all take, the more we all follow these guidelines, hopefully the sooner we'll be able to lift the masking requirement, but it's, at this time, it is what we need. And especially for families impacted by Ida, a return to school for their children may be an important return to normalcy. Our kids are especially resilient, but the power of being back in their classrooms with peers and educators can be part of their own process of healing from the stress of the past week. And that stress is real. The president and I were in a home with a young couple who had a couple of kids, and their family was rescued in the middle of the night. One of the families, Pat, we were with yesterday in Manville, high water, is dark, rescue boat, and the mom said, listen, I need to know where to go for some mental health advice for my kids. And God willing, as we get back to school and we do it safely, and you're with, again, peers and educators, and you've got structure in your life, part of that can be part of the solution. Let's face it, virtual learning cannot work if you don't have a safe and comfortable place to live to do it. And sadly, we have too many homes right now in our state in that situation. And too many students right now and their families are displaced or living in homes that are still being cleaned, where the power isn't restored or the cable is still out. Remote learning just isn't an option. We need this return to in-person education. Through both the Department of Health under Judy's leadership and the Department of Education, we are ready to assist schools and districts in any way we can, and we want everyone to start the year safely, both in terms of protection from the coronavirus and having a safe place amidst a sea of storm destruction. And again, we wish everyone a good start to the school year. Now let's turn our attention to today's numbers. First up, and we'll run through these fairly quickly, this is our latest vaccination figures as of this morning. Again, good progress, but the day in, day out numbers have gone back down again, Judy. I'm counting sort of averaging 8,000 or 9,000 first shots a day, and we've got to be better than that as a state. So folks, if you're not yet vaccinated, get out there and get your first shot, and then follow it up with your second. Here is updated information on breakthrough cases. First, we'll look at the overall effectiveness of the vaccines among the more than 5.2 million individuals who achieved their level of full vaccination by August 23rd. That's the last date in this particular analysis. And then here are the data points for the specific for the week, August 16th through the 22nd. Once again, the preliminary data overwhelmingly and conclusively makes the case to get vaccinated if you've not yet done so. Now let's get to today's newly released numbers. Here are the latest case totals as of this morning, and it must be noted that today's numbers of test positives includes a backlog of reports from yesterday due to a lab reporting issue from then. So if you average yesterday and today out, Judy, you get to about 2,000 cases a day over the past couple of days, which is about on trend. Here's a look at the impact on our hospital systems, and as you can see, these numbers are up. There's no other way to put it. In fact, overnight, the hospitalization numbers, I think, are up 94 from yesterday. And here, with the heaviest of hearts of the newly confirmed deaths, and we're confirming 31 new deaths today, and you can see the totals unfathomable. The bulk of those, I know, Judy, you laid out earlier, a bulk of those are from August, a handful from September, and a couple from May, as I recall. So as we do every day, let's take a minute to honor the lives of some of those members of our extraordinary New Jersey family who we have lost to COVID-19. I want to start today by remembering this guy, Carlos Garcia, and he lived in Patterson. COVID claimed him on January 25th at the young age of 64. Carlos was born in El Salvador and came to the United States 47 years ago, setting in Patterson. For 22 years, he worked at the Lubrizol Corporation in nearby Clifton, where he was the maintenance manager. Away from the factory, he loved the outdoors, from fishing and hunting to tending to his garden to hosting a cookout for family and friends, which was his favorite activity. And he was a soccer fanatic, especially for his longtime team, Real Madrid. Carlos leaves behind his 3 daughters, Carla, Veronica, and Angelica, and I had the great honor of speaking with Angelica last week, along with his son-in-law, Veronica's husband, Luis, along with their mother, Rosa, and his significant other, Jessica. He also leaves behind his brother and sister, Juan and Ana, and his nieces and nephews. Carlos was a devoted Catholic and a parishioner of Clifton St. Brendan and St. George Roman Catholic Church. We pray that God has welcomed him, and we thank Carlos for choosing to be a part of our New Jersey family. Next, we're going to head to the shore to recall the life of this woman on the right, Bayville resident Donna Toner. And Donna was 70 years old, and we lost her on February 26th. Donna was born in Red Bank, and she was a graduate of my hometown, one of my hometown high schools, Middletown High School North, and moved up the Bay Shore to Keensburg before moving to the Lacona Harbor section of Lacey Township and ultimately to Toms River. Many clients in the beauty salon at the Pines of Whiting Senior Community would likely remember Donna as the manager of that establishment, where she spent a total of 25 years. A parishioner of St. Barnabas Roman Catholic Church in Bayville, Donna was a woman of abiding love of her faith and her family, with whom she loved spending time, especially with those 2 guys, grandsons Daniel and Michael. Donna is survived by her husband Glenn, with whom she enjoyed 48 years of marriage. She left her daughters Tara and Denise, and I had the great honor of speaking with Denise last week. Those 2 grandsons, bless them both, Daniel and Michael, who were her world, and she's now reunited with her son Glenn, who previously passed away. She also left her sister Karen, with whom I had the great honor of speaking, her brother Jackie, and sister-in-law Patty, along with countless other family members and dear friends. May God bless Donna and watch over her memory and her family, and we thank her for a lifetime spent as a proud New Jerseyan, and may she always be remembered. And finally, for today, remember this guy, another proud member of our immigrant family, Jesus Pita. He lived in Clifton by way of his native Puebla, Mexico. He passed on March 14th and was 69 years old. Jesus came to the United States more than 40 years ago, first living in the Bronx and then in Passaic before settling in Clifton in 2001. He was the proud owner of Las Maravillas de Tulcingo Mexican restaurant, which he grew into a successful business with loyal patrons at its 2 locations in Passaic and Englewood. He was also a man of great faith. He was a parishioner of Our Lady of Fatima Roman Catholic Church in Passaic. He leaves behind his wife, Lucina, 3 beloved children, his daughter Jenny and her husband Giovanni, Jesus Jr., with whom I had the great honor of speaking last week, and his wife, Wendy, and his daughter, Daisy, along with her fiancé, Jose. And I know he would have loved nothing more than to have walked her down the aisle. He also left his 5 grandchildren, Marcus, Jesus III, Jacob, Layla, and Camilla, along with 5 siblings back in his native Mexico. May God bless Jesus in his memory, and may his legacy live on through his family and through the taste of Mexico he brought to our communities. Our state's family is proud and diverse, and we remember each and every one we have lost. Now, moving on, I want to recognize another of the small businesses who, in partnership with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, continue to make a difference in their community. Today, we're giving a well-deserved shout-out to this guy, amazing athletes in Hamilton Township, right here in Mercer County, and its founder, the guy on the right, Sean Kenny. Prior to the pandemic, Sean and his team were bringing their unique physical fitness programs to 2,000 children ages 2 to 6 at more than 150 preschools and daycare centers across central Jersey. COVID required Sean and his team to try to adapt to a virtual model, and thanks to an emergency grant he received from the EDA, not only was he able to provide virtual instruction during the school day, but when the clock struck 3 p.m., he was able to turn his virtual learning center into an in-person after-school operation. I had the opportunity recently last week, in fact, to speak with Sean. He and amazing athletes are still on the comeback, but we are committed to helping them stay on the path. Check them out, amazingathletes.com, amazingathletes.com. Keep at it, Sean. You're doing a great job. Before I turn things over to Judy, I want to once again note that we are expecting storms to head across our state later today. Please take every precaution, given that the ground, as I mentioned earlier, in many places remains saturated despite the sunny weather of the past several days. The potential for flash flooding always exists with a quick-moving thunderstorm. Please stay safe. Do not attempt, as I mentioned earlier, to drive into standing water. In fact, if you see a storm approaching, just don't go out, period. Stay in and stay safe. And I will again put on screen, as you can see here, the information for those of you in the counties designated by FEMA for federal emergency disaster relief to begin the process of filing such relief so you can restore your homes and businesses. Again, the easiest way is to go to that website, disasterassistance.gov. Again, for those of you who are in other counties, we need you to log on to that website, nj.gov/IDA, and catalog your damages. This is the information we need to get more individual homeowners and more counties included for FEMA assistance. From our side here, we will continue to work with President Biden and FEMA and its great administrator, Deanne Criswell, to ensure that folks get help as quickly as possible and to advocate as strongly as we can for every impacted county to be covered by this major disaster declaration. But also remember that FEMA relief is no replacement for flood insurance. Your homeowner's policy is not going to protect you against a flood. Only flood insurance policy will ensure that you can get back to where you and your home and property were before a flood event. You do not need to live in a flood zone to purchase flood insurance. And so many families learned last week places that have not known to flood can and will. Don't wait for the next flood. Prepare. Here again is that last website we want to give you for the National Flood Insurance Program, floodsmart.gov. Again, be safe this afternoon and into the evening, but just vitally pay attention to weather alerts. Do not head out if there's a danger flooding in your area, and keep helping out. You've been extraordinary, unbelievable, by the thousands upon thousands, folks who have come out, whether they be first responders, neighbors, you name it, people paid, people unpaid, coming out and doing the right thing by the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, in New Jersey. Keep that, folks. We're going to get through this together and we'll rebuild together. With that, please help me welcome the woman who needs no introduction, the Commissioner of the Department of Health, Judy Persichilli.
Governor, and good afternoon. As cleanup and recovery efforts continue in the aftermath of Tropical Storm Ida, the department has been sharing resources about how homeowners, business owners, community volunteers, and contractors should protect themselves against environmental hazards that may be present and unseen in storm-damaged homes and buildings. When doing cleanup work, protect your health by wearing gloves, masks, boots, protective eyewear, and respirators. Only specially licensed contractors should remove asbestos-containing materials. Serious injuries can also occur from post-storm tree hazards. Leave that work to the professionals. Individuals can search for a licensed professional at njtreeexperts.org. Do not apply chemicals to remove mold and bacteria without protective equipment, because many of these products contain chemicals that cause reactions if they come in contact with your skin or are inhaled. After a storm or flood, any area damaged by water could be subjected to mold. When mold spores drop in places where there is excessive moisture, such as there has been flooding, they will grow. Determine if mold spores are present in your walls and ceilings and floors for signs of water damage. Mold can also be recognized by musty, earthy smell and odor. Exposure to mold spores can be dangerous. It can also cause nasal and throat irritation, coughing or wheezing, eye irritation, or in some cases, skin irritation. People with mold allergies may have more severe reactions. A fact sheet linked to a department brochure can be found on the department's Storm Recovery Resource page, which can be accessed from the Department of Health's homepage. Those involved in cleanup activities should check with their care providers to determine if they need booster shots or vaccination. Following Superstorm Sandy, we know the dangers of carbon monoxide poisoning from using generators inside homes and garages. In the 2 weeks following Sandy, nearly 400 patients were treated in New Jersey emergency rooms, and 5 individuals died from carbon monoxide poisoning. So only use generators outside, more than 20 feet away from your home, your doors, and windows. Food safety is also an important issue. Throw out perishable food in your refrigerator, meat, fish, cut fruits, vegetables, eggs, milk, and leftovers after 4 hours without power or a cold source like ice. Do not eat any food that may have come in contact with flood water. Discard any food not in a waterproof container. Also throw out cardboard juice, milk, or baby formula boxes. I encourage you to visit nj.gov/health for more information on how to protect your health during this time. Not only your physical health, but your emotional and mental health as well. This week marks the return of many children and adolescents to classrooms, and we want the return to be as safe as possible. A vital way to protect the health of children in school is to get them vaccinated if they are eligible. The percentage of New Jersey children between the ages of 12 and 17 who have received at least 1 dose of vaccine has risen to 57%. 66% of 16 and 17-year-olds have received at least 1 dose of vaccine. As we emphasized last week, preventive approach, which includes masking, frequent hand washing, physical distancing, and staying home when you're sick, is being implemented to protect the health of students and staff alike. Additionally, all K through 12 schools are strongly encouraged to develop a screening program that will provide screening testing for staff and students. This will have until September 13 to opt in and participate in the department's testing program. Provide screening testing for staff and students at no cost to the districts. The reports for CDC morbidity and mortality, otherwise MMWR, last week illustrate the impact of COVID-19 on emergency room and hospitalization among youth. The CDC found that from late June to mid-August, hospitalization rates in the United States for children and teenagers increased nearly 5-fold. The reports also highlighted how well vaccination works to protect against severe illness. Among adolescents aged 12 to 17 years, hospitalization